Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. Time was colonized. Time was colonized. And so was the image of Jesus, the calendar that we live by, and even the face we worship were both rebranded by empires. The Bible says in Genesis 1 and 14 that God made the moon to mark seasons and appointed times, not the sun. It's also confirmed in Psalm 104 and 19. He made the moon to mark the seasons. You have every major festival that's mentioned in the Bible: Passover, Atonement, Tabernacles. All of those festivals were based on the lunar calendar, the moon. That should go to tell you that God's people follow the moon. God's people follow the moon. Even the word for month in Hebrew, Kodesh, means moon. It means new moon, actually. That's God's calendar, y'all. God's original calendar. But Rome changed all of that. Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar. And then later you had Pope Gregory XIII, who introduced us the Gregorian calendar, which is a calendar we use today. But the question is, why does the world follow it? Simple answer: colonization. When Europe took over Africa, Asia, and the Americas, they completely erased God's time because they forced their calendar on every culture, completely erased God's time and replaced it with their system, man's system. But Easter, we know that Easter's coming up on April 20th. Easter still follows the moon because it's tied to Passover, God's calendar. Now, have you ever wondered how Jesus was crucified on a Friday and rose again on a Sunday? And they called it 3 days? In Jewish culture, any part of the day is counted as a full day. So Friday was day 1. Saturday, the Sabbath, was day 2. And Sunday was day 3, the day Jesus rose. So when the Bible says that he rose on the 3rd day, it lines up with, the time that was counted back then. As for Christmas, December 25th, the so-called proclaimed birthday of Jesus, that's Rome's date. Jesus' actual birth date was never recorded. Rome picked that date to line up with a pagan festival, and they are the ones that made it a tradition. So, let's talk about why Christmas is December 25th. I mentioned this last December around the holiday season as relates to Christmas, so I'm saying it again. This date was taken from a pagan festival called Saturnalia, which honored the Roman god Saturn. And they had feasting and gift giving, and then later it merged with the worship of Sol Invictus, which was the sun god. And the sun god's birthday was also on December 25th. So the church chose this particular day to erase and replace pagan traditions and make it Christian ones. But y'all, December 25th was never the birthday of Jesus. I mean, come on. And while they were changing, the calendar and all of that, they changed the image of Jesus too. White Jesus is a European invention. White Jesus is a European invention. But in 2016, Russian researchers opened a sealed vault and found ancient icons of a black Jesus. Not only that, they found it with all African disciples and a black mother. But that's the truth that they buried. They buried it. Just like God's calendar, the true image of Jesus the Christ was hidden. And y'all, they were successful at it. But as for you, you have the opportunity to decolonize your faith. Get back to your African roots and your African spirituality that your ancestors practiced, and get back to what is real.